Every summer, someone finds a reason to doubt Barcelona. Too old at the back, too thin at striker, too reliant on kids who could get injured any given Sunday. And every summer, Hansi Flick looks at the doubters, says almost nothing, and then goes out and wins the league anyway. So before you write off this Barcelona side heading into 2026-27, maybe it's worth asking what exactly this German coach is building, and why the rest of Europe, Premier League included, should probably be paying very close attention. Welcome to Football Detailing, and let's get started. Let's set the table first, because context matters here. Flick didn't just win La Liga last season, he dominated it. Barcelona finished the 2025-26 campaign with 94 points and 95 league goals, backed by an expected goals number north of 86. Numbers that tell you this wasn't a side riding hot finishing streaks or a soft run of fixtures. It was structural, territorial, repeatable. Add a Spanish Super Cup on top of the league title, and you've got a manager who, in his second full season in Spain, has already turned Barcelona back into the most feared attacking machine on the continent. So no, this isn't a club in crisis pretending everything's fine. This is a club that just won, trying to win again, and trying to make sure this time the Champions League doesn't slip away the way it did against Inter Milan. Now here's where it gets interesting, because what Flick has actually done to Barcelona is not what most people assume. For decades, this club's identity was built on patience. Cruyff's total football, Guardiola's positional play, tiki-taka, the slow suffocation of opponents through possession alone. Flick kept the possession. Barcelona are still averaging somewhere around 66 to 69% of the ball in most matches, comfortably the highest in La Liga. But he married it to something far more German, far more aggressive. Vertical tiki-taka is the phrase you'll hear thrown around a lot, and it fits. Short, quick combinations that used to exist purely to control the game now exist to break lines and get bodies forward as fast as possible. It's possession as a weapon for chaos, not just control. The clearest expression of this is the defensive line. Flick's Barcelona plays an extraordinarily high back four, higher than almost anyone else at the top level in Europe. It compresses the pitch, it starves the opposition of space to build through midfield, and it lets Barcelona counter-press the moment they lose the ball, because everyone is already bunched up close to the center of the pitch. When it works, it's devastating. Ask Real Madrid, who were beaten 4-0 in an El Clasico, where a Madrid player was caught offside 12 separate times in a single match. That's not an accident. That's a system doing exactly what it was built to do, dragging opponents into a trap over and over again. Now let's talk about the squad, because this is where the summer gets messy and genuinely fascinating. Barcelona's first major move of the window was for pace and directness out wide. Anthony Gordon arrived from Newcastle United in a deal worth around £69 million. A statement signing that tells you exactly what Flick wants. A wide player who can run in behind and stretch defenses rather than just recycle possession. Right alongside him came Karim Adeyemi from Borussia Dortmund for roughly £25 million. Another explosive attacker built for transition football rather than intricate build-up play. Then there's Jesse Bisiwu, arriving from Club Brugge on an undisclosed fee, a younger addition on the right side who fits the same profile of speed and directness. Look at the pattern here. None of these are technical number 10s in the Xavi mold. They're runners, wide players who thrive when the game opens up, which tells you everything about how Flick sees this squad evolving. He's not recruiting for control, he's recruiting for chaos, for exactly the kind of vertical, transitional football his tactical identity is built around. On the outgoing side, the story is dominated by one name above all others. Robert Lewandowski, the club's talisman in front of goal for the last 3 seasons, has left as a free agent. That is a genuinely enormous void to fill, because whatever you think of his age, the man was still Barcelona's most clinical finisher, still getting on the end of chances created by Yamal and Rafinha and putting them away with ruthless efficiency. Alongside him, there's been a clear-out in goal, with Ander Astrolaga leaving on a free transfer, Diego Kochen sent out on loan to Lyngby, and Iñaki Peña sold to Panathinaikos for around £2.5 million. Ansu Fati, once the most hyped academy graduate in world football, has completed his exit too, joining Monaco for roughly £9.5 million, closing a chapter that never quite delivered on its early promise. And Ronald Araujo has gone out on loan. A decision that raised eyebrows given his standing as a regular starter, but one that reflects just how serious Barcelona are about reshaping the backline this summer. That reshaping isn't finished either. Jules Kounde and Alejandro Balde have both been made available if the right offer comes in, which tells you Barcelona are genuinely willing to sell established starters if it funds the right incoming deals. Ferran Torres, meanwhile, is reportedly closing in on a move to Paris Saint-Germain, with personal terms said to be agreed, and given he has just 12 months left on his contract, letting him go now for a fee makes obvious footballing sense, rather than losing him for nothing next summer. And this is where the real drama of the window sits, because Barcelona still don't have their new number 9. Julian Alvarez at Atletico Madrid has been Flick's clear priority, with club president Joan Laporta confirming a bid worth around €100 million. But as of the second week of August, those talks are stuck. Flick himself told reporters bluntly that Barcelona know they have to do something in the market, acknowledging the club is actively exploring alternatives while the Alvarez pursuit stalls. That's about as direct an admission as you'll get from a manager that his attack is currently one body short of where it needs to be, with preseason already underway and the league opener against Elche fast approaching. The center-back situation tells a similar story of intent without conclusion. Names like Alessandro Bastoni and Cristiano Romero have been consistently linked as Barcelona look to add proven quality at the back, particularly given the uncertainty around Kounde's future and Araujo's loan exit. Nothing is signed yet, but the shape of the plan is clear: sell where there's value, reinvest in a defense that can actually sustain that punishing high line for a full season without breaking down physically the way it did last year. Speaking of breaking down physically, there's a story here that doesn't get talked about enough. Barcelona's 2025-26 season was hit hard by injuries. Rafinha, Balde, and Kounde all suffered fitness problems at various points, including a brutal double blow in the Copa del Rey semi-final when Balde and Kounde went down in the same match. That pattern, combined with Flick's own visible frustration about it, led directly to a genuine off-field change. The club has moved to appoint Holger Broik as the new head of physical preparation, replacing Julio Tous. It's not a name that makes headlines the way a striker signing does, but it might end up being one of the most important decisions of the summer, because a high-intensity pressing system like Flick's simply cannot function if key players are constantly breaking down. If Broik's methods reduce that injury rate even modestly, it could be worth more to Barcelona's season than any individual transfer. There's also a midfield situation quietly developing. Frenkie de Jong returned from World Cup duty with a knee problem that's ruled him out for the early months of the new campaign, and that absence has reportedly pushed a previously low-priority target, a new central midfielder, right up the club's list of needs. Deco and the sporting department have apparently been scouring the market for reinforcements in the middle of the park as a direct response. And in the middle of all this business, there's a smaller, quieter story that actually says a lot about how Flick operates. Brian Farinas, a 20-year-old academy midfielder, was on the verge of completing a move to Girona, medical and everything nearly done, when Flick personally intervened and asked for the move to be paused so he could take a closer look at the kid during preseason. It's a small decision in the grand scheme of a summer dominated by €100 million striker chases, but it tells you something about how closely this manager pays attention to his own squad, not just the names being linked in the papers. Put all of this together, and you get a very clear picture of what this Barcelona season actually is. It's not a finished product. It's a club still mid-construction in August, still chasing its number 9, still deciding exactly which of its center-backs stay and which get moved on, still integrating 3 new attackers who fit a very specific, very deliberate tactical profile. But the foundation underneath all of that uncertainty is genuinely elite. A manager who has already proven this exact system wins La Liga titles, a front line stacked with pace and directness, and a squad that, once the final pieces land, whether that's Alvarez or an alternative striker, a new center-back, a fresh midfielder, is built to be even more relentless than the version that just won the double. Let's linger on the Premier League question a bit longer, because it deserves more than a passing mention. English football has leaned harder into physicality and transition speed, and Flick's Barcelona is almost a mirror image of that shift, just filtered through Spanish technical foundations. That's genuinely rare. Most La Liga sides still default to slower, more controlled build-up when they're not under pressure. Flick's version doesn't. It wants chaos, it wants broken lines, it wants the ball moving forward the instant it's won back. For a Premier League club drawing Barcelona in the Champions League this season, that similarity in tempo could actually work in their favor, because their players are already conditioned to play at that speed for 90 minutes, something plenty of continental sides genuinely struggle to match. On the flip side, there's no hiding place. Sit back against this Barcelona, and you're inviting the sustained territorial pressure that produced 95 league goals last season. The teams that give Flick the most trouble won't be the ones trying to outpossess him, they'll be the ones willing to press just as high and just as fast, daring his defenders to win individual battles in space. That's a tactical puzzle very few managers in Europe are currently equipped to solve, and it's exactly why this Barcelona side, even mid-rebuild, walks into every fixture as favorites. It's also worth remembering none of this happens in isolation from the boardroom. Reports throughout the spring made clear Flick was set to sign a new contract keeping him at the club until 2028, tied directly to the club backing his squad rebuild. Managers with that kind of long-term security tend to make bolder calls, and that's exactly what we've seen. Cutting ties with a legend in Lewandowski, moving on Ansu Fati, and being willing to sell regulars like Kounde or Balde if it funds the right upgrades. This isn't caution, it's conviction. So when people tell you to doubt Barcelona this season because Lewandowski's gone, or because the defense is being reshuffled mid-window, remember what you just heard. This is a team run by a coach who tore up one of the most sacred footballing identities in the world and made it work almost immediately. The pieces are still moving, but the picture underneath them hasn't changed. Flick's Barcelona doesn't need everything to be settled to be dangerous. It just needs the ball and about half a second of space. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed to Football Detailing, because we're tracking every single one of these moves as Barcelona's window plays out right through to deadline day.